Hello everyone, I'm Susan, a 32-year-old woman. I consider myself fortunate to have grown up with a father who was a successful entrepreneur and provided for our family generously. However, I want to emphasize that my privileged upbringing didn't turn me into a snob. While I enjoyed the finer aspects of life, I also valued humility and recognized that I was more than just a wealthy kid. Unfortunately, once people became aware of my background, they often jumped to conclusions, assuming I was merely another spoiled rich girl. This was disheartening and made it hard for me to build genuine friendships. Instead of finding true companions, I frequently encountered envy, leaving me feeling alone and craving meaningful connections. Then came Michael. Our encounter felt like a scene from a fairy tale, and in a whirlwind of romance, we tied the knot just 4 months after we began dating. It might sound reckless, but I was swept away by the experience. For the first time, I understood what it meant to truly love and be loved, and I held on to that feeling tightly. Michael became my everything, my partner, my rock, and my source of stability in a chaotic world. Yet, life is never without its hurdles, and mine manifested through family dynamics. Michael's parents, John and Elizabeth, were doubtful about our relationship from the beginning. Their concerns were rooted in stereotypes regarding my affluent upbringing, fearing I might bring heartbreak, manipulation, or the pitfalls of a lavish lifestyle into their son's life. It pained me that they judged me without truly knowing who I was, and I longed for their acceptance. I went above and beyond to prove that I wasn't the spoiled girl they imagined. Then, something happened that transformed everything. A few months after Michael and I exchanged vows, Elizabeth unexpectedly reached out to me one sunny afternoon. Her unusually upbeat tone made me uneasy, signaling that something unusual was about to unfold. Elizabeth began with light-hearted small talk, then delivered a surprising revelation. She and John wanted to take a luxurious vacation. They had been saving for this dream getaway, and their excitement was contagious, promising an adventure they had long anticipated. In an effort to win Elizabeth over and strengthen our bond, I impulsively offered to cover all the expenses. "Really? Would you do that?" she asked, incredulous. "Of course," I replied. "You're family to me, and I want you to enjoy this trip without worrying about costs." Although Elizabeth hesitated, claiming it was too generous, I insisted, hoping to demonstrate my love and commitment to making this a memorable experience for all of us. She was elated at the idea, and I hoped this gesture would show how much I cared and was willing to support them. Elizabeth accepted my offer and assured me they would handle the planning, telling me not to fret about the details. As the trip drew near, we were all buzzing with anticipation. Michael and I discussed the activities we would enjoy, and in my enthusiasm, I even booked first-class tickets for everyone, aiming for the utmost comfort during our journey. The day we arrived in Turkey was nothing short of magical. The country's vibrant colors, bustling markets, and rich culture instantly captivated us. For Michael, John, and Elizabeth, experiencing their first international trip was a joyful awakening. Even though I had been to Turkey before, seeing it anew through their eyes rekindled my admiration for the place. As the most seasoned traveler in our group, I eagerly took on the role of tour guide. I was excited to show them around, especially the enchanting city of Istanbul, and to introduce them to the delightful local cuisine. Everything seemed perfect as we delved into the Turkish experience, sharing moments of wonder and discovery. Elizabeth appeared grateful for my involvement, and we were all relishing the trip. However, the joyful atmosphere shifted dramatically upon our arrival at the extravagant Stardust Hotel chosen by Elizabeth. As I began to unpack in our lavish hotel suite, John abruptly informed me that I wouldn't be staying with them in such luxury. Instead, they had arranged alternate accommodations for me. At first, I thought he was joking, so I laughed it off and continued unpacking. But then Michael, my husband, gestured for me to pause and pay attention. Elizabeth, with a smirk, clarified that the 5-star hotel was solely for them, while I was to stay at a motel. My shock was palpable. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. I turned to Michael for some kind of justification or support, but his silence only deepened my frustration. I demanded an explanation, struggling to understand their cruel intentions. Elizabeth and John didn't hold back in revealing their true feelings. They accused me of being arrogant and claimed this was their method of teaching me humility. They criticized my offer to cover the trip's costs and the first-class tickets, viewing these gestures not as kindness, but as displays of wealth. Their accusations were unfounded. I had only aimed to share a wonderful experience with my family, not to flaunt my financial standing. Their words pierced me, accusing me of being obsessed with money and asserting that I acted superior due to my privileged background. They even spitefully speculated on what would happen if my family lost everything, implying I would be worthless without my father's wealth. I was furious, defending myself by asserting that I had always appreciated what I possessed and never viewed myself as superior to anyone. All I wanted was to create a memorable experience for my family, and I saw nothing wrong with that. The smug expressions on John and Elizabeth's faces revealed their deep-seated contempt for me. It was clear they were willing to go to great lengths to belittle me, completely disregarding the emotional damage their actions would inflict. Turning to Michael, I sought even a hint of support or understanding, yearning for a moment of solidarity in the midst of this chaos. His face was etched with regret as I pulled away from him and declared, "You're all idiots, and I must be a fool for ever trusting any of you." My anger was like an uncontrollable blaze, compelling me to gather my things and storm out of the room with the force of a storm. I was boiling, unable to comprehend their cruelty. As I made my way down to the lobby, my phone buzzed with a message from Elizabeth, boldly sending me the address of the miserable motel they had booked for me. In that moment, I made the decision to cut all ties with them, blocking their numbers to rid myself of their toxicity. Alone in the lobby, I felt utterly abandoned, my hope fading when I learned that the hotel was fully booked, a final blow to my already shattered heart. Overwhelmed, I found myself crying in the lobby, the embodiment of my isolation. It was then, in my moment of despair, that I decided to call my dad. I shared the entire experience with him, from the heartbreak of betrayal to the humiliation of being left without a place to stay. He listened with empathy, his voice a soothing balm to my wounded soul. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Remember, with our kind of wealth, there will always be those looking to exploit it. It's a harsh reality, but it doesn't diminish your worth." I opened up to him about Michael, expressing my disbelief and hurt, feeling foolish for ever believing things could be different between us. My dad's wisdom served as a gentle reminder that the failures of others do not define us. "You're strong," he assured me, instilling a sense of resilience within me. "You'll get through this. Just as you faced challenges before, you're not alone." He was curious about where I was. "I'm at the Stardust Hotel, but they're saying there's no room," I replied, feeling defeated. His response hinted at a playful defiance against my predicament, suggesting I had the power to change my circumstances if I chose to. Though he meant to lighten the mood, his words reminded me of my support system, no matter how dire the situation appeared. Why would I upset all these guests? They're here to enjoy themselves, not to get involved in my drama. I vented to my dad, still in disbelief over the situation. "I can't believe it. I paid for these rooms, and they had the audacity to send me away." "Wait, did you say the Stardust?" Dad's interest was piqued. "Hang on, sweetheart, let me check something." He paused our conversation for a moment. When he returned, he was practically buzzing with excitement. "We'll tell those jokers to pack up. They're in my hotel." "Your hotel? What do you mean?" I asked, completely bewildered. It turned out to be an incredible story. Despite my advice against gambling, my dad had a rare lapse and ended up winning a hotel from a friend who, in a drunken state, gambled it away. This hotel was none other than the Stardust. It sounded like a scene from a movie, a twist of fate or an incredible stroke of luck. My dad, who had always hated losing at gambling, had unwittingly become the owner of the very hotel from which I had been expelled. "I can't believe this. It's insane," I said, still trying to process the news. "Now go reclaim your space. Those folks have no idea who they've messed with." "Thanks, Dad. I can't even begin to express how much I appreciate this," I said, filled with a newfound sense of purpose and strength. This unexpected turn felt like a ray of hope in an otherwise dark situation. I hung up the phone, feeling empowered and ready to confront whatever awaited me in Turkey. With my dad's support and this surprising advantage, I was determined to turn this challenging experience into something unforgettable. Fueled by righteous indignation, I marched back to the hotel room where Elizabeth, Michael, and John were staying. My determination was unshakable as I knocked on the door. Prepared to confront them, Michael opened the door, clearly taken aback to see me standing there, ready to flip the script. Before he could utter a word, I boldly declared, "I'm coming in whether you like it or not." As I stepped inside, Elizabeth's shrieks filled the room. "What do you think you're doing here? We already showed you the door," she yelled, mocking my return. "Look at her, thinking she owns the place." In response, I couldn't help but say, "Well, in a way, I kind of do." Elizabeth shot back, accusing me of being so entitled that I thought every luxury was mine by right. She threatened to call security, relishing the idea of me being escorted out. Little did she know, the security team was already with me, stepping forward at my cue to begin clearing out their belongings, much to John's shock and confusion. "What in the world is happening here?" John managed, utterly bewildered. Seizing the moment, I dropped the bombshell. "Actually, my dad owns this hotel, so it's time for you to leave. Your little scheme to humiliate me has just backfired." Elizabeth and John stood in disbelief, unable to grasp the turn of events. "You'll regret this," John threatened, still in denial about the reality that I had indeed paid for our stay, making me just as much a customer as anyone else. Their pleas for understanding fell on deaf ears as they finally realized the gravity of their situation. Feeling suddenly exposed and without any options, they fretted, "Where will we go?" But I remained unyielding. "Perhaps the motel you booked for me could house you, though it may be cramped." "You have no compassion," John charged, casting me as the antagonist in their misfortune. "You're the real villains here, for how you treated me," I shot back, my patience thoroughly depleted. Michael's apologies came too late to matter. I informed him of my decision to divorce, eager to cut all connections after their betrayal. As they were ushered out, despite Elizabeth's sobs and John's objections, the harsh reality of their situation began to dawn on them. John's final jab, calling me a spoiled brat, only fueled my anger. While his words couldn't dim the satisfaction I felt at their departure, it did signal the end of a troubling chapter, forcing me to reflect on the unexpected turn my journey to Turkey had taken. In a moment of sheer irritation, I confronted John, delivering a blunt message about my disdain for their behavior. "You know, John, you can all just vanish." Watching Elizabeth, Michael, and John being led away by security, their faces a mix of shock and humiliation marked a significant shift. Hours later, I spotted them from my hotel window, aimlessly searching for accommodation. They attempted to reach out to me, probably realizing the depth of their mistake, but since I had blocked them, they resorted to sending desperate emails filled with apologies and pleas. I skimmed through the messages, feeling no compulsion to reply. I called my dad to update him on the situation, unable to shake the image of their pitiful state from my view. They seemed completely lost. "Dad, it's remarkable how hard they're struggling to find a place." My dad then revealed he had intervened, using his influence to complicate their search for a hotel even further. "I may have made a few calls," he admitted, having ensured that their names would not easily gain them entry to any establishment in the city. I wondered if this might be excessive. Yes, they had been cruel, but the extent of our retaliation felt extreme. My dad, ever protective, argued it was a necessary lesson. They needed to grasp the consequences of their actions, he insisted. I appreciated my dad's desire to protect me, but I couldn't help but wish we hadn't gone too far in our response. "I hope this doesn't haunt them indefinitely," I pondered, wishing that ultimately this experience would lead to their growth rather than define them. "Hopefully, they'll take this time to reflect and improve," I said, looking forward to moving past this incident and enjoying the tranquility and beauty that Turkey had to offer, supported by my dad's love. After the whirlwind of events, I found comfort in my dad's words, reminding me of my resilience, strength, and right to happiness. "You're the best dad," I expressed, grateful for his unwavering support. It was both ironic and satisfying to discover that Elizabeth, Michael, and John ended up at the shabby motel they had initially booked for me. Their plans had backfired, landing them in the very discomfort they had sought to impose on me. Meanwhile, I sat alone in the spacious hotel suite we were meant to share. The feeling was bittersweet. On one hand, I reveled in my newfound freedom, the liberty to do what I wanted without judgment or pretense. Yet, the solitude also prompted moments of reflection on the rapid changes that led to my isolated stay. Despite the occasional loneliness, I recognized that being alone was far better than the company of deceitful people. A moment of clarity washed over me, affirming my worth and the realization that I deserved so much more. Empowered by this insight, I sent Michael the divorce papers. His pleas for reconciliation and promises of change fell on deaf ears. I had seen his true nature and understood I deserved someone sincere, not just hollow apologies. Though my time in Turkey was spent alone, it became a journey of self-discovery. Upon returning home, I decisively removed all reminders of Michael from my life, indifferent to the path he and his family chose to follow. This experience imparted the invaluable lesson of seeking happiness within myself instead of depending on others' approval. I embraced my independence, committing to personal growth, pursuing my interests, and surrounding myself with uplifting influences. With each passing day, I felt my inner strength and confidence blossom. The scars of the past began to heal, making way for newfound self-appreciation. I learned that true happiness lies in authenticity and self-love, not in the validation of those unworthy of my time. My time in Turkey, with all its lessons, became a pivotal chapter in my life, steering me toward a future filled with self-acceptance and authenticity. With a determined heart and a smile, I stepped forward, leaving behind toxicity and embracing a life filled with joy defined by my own standards. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Stay amazed.